So, what happens when one of the most famous astrophysicists in the world, a guy who literally studies the cosmos, turns his attention to the most remote place on our own planet? Well, today we're going to find out. We're taking a journey to Antarctica right alongside Neil deGrasse Tyson on a trip he said was a huge bucket list item for him.
I mean, think about it. For a man who spends his life looking out at distant galaxies, what is it about Earth's icy South Pole that so completely captured his imagination? This wasn't just some vacation for him, it was the final stamp in his planetary passport, the fulfillment of a lifelong dream to set foot on every single continent.
And this was absolutely no ordinary cruise. The expedition was put together by a group called Future of Space, and they assembled, well, a pretty unique crew of explorers, all ready to sail into one of the most hostile environments on Earth. And just get a load of this crew list. This was a ship of explorers in every sense of the word. You had the man who played Captain Kirk himself, a record-holding astronaut, an actual moonwalker, and another top-tier physicist. Seriously, can you even imagine the dinner conversations on that ship? Just amazing. The whole journey kicks off at what they call the end of the world, Ushuaia, Argentina. This is a city that totally leans into its identity as the final outpost, you know? It's the last little bit of civilization before you plunge headfirst into the wild, unpredictable Southern Ocean.
Right, but here's the thing. Before you can actually set foot on Antarctica, you have to earn it. And earning it means you've got to cross one of the most treacherous, most violent stretches of water on the entire planet.
We're talking about the infamous Drake Passage. This is literally where the mighty Atlantic and Pacific Oceans just slam into each other. It creates this chaotic, violent seascape that really pushes the limits of even the most modern high-tech ships.
And the experience was, well, nothing short of intense. Tyson talked about how the horizon would tilt at these totally impossible angles as the ship was just mercilessly tossed around. It got so turbulent that plates would literally slide right off the tables. Most people were just on lockdown in their cabins trying to ride it out.
And this is where it really hits you, right? It puts the sheer bravery of those early explorers into perspective. Their ship was a state-of-the-art, steel-reinforced vessel, and it was still getting thrown around like a toy. It is just mind-boggling to think about how those old wooden ships from the 18th and 19th centuries ever survived these storms. So, after surviving the Drake Passage, you get the ultimate reward, Antarctica itself. And for a scientist like Neil deGrasse Tyson, this is where the real exploration kicks off, starting with the very ice that's all around you.
You've probably heard this before, but it's one thing to hear it and another to see it. When you look at an iceberg, you are only ever seeing the tip. A truly staggering 90% of its mass is always hidden just beneath the surface. It's a fundamental and honestly awe-inspiring rule of physics.
Now, all icebergs are incredible, but the ones that really captivated Tyson were these, tabletop icebergs. See, unlike the jagged mountain-like bergs that break off from glaciers, these are perfectly flat. They look like giant floating puzzle pieces that have snapped off these vast frozen ice shells.
Okay, to help you wrap your head around that 90% rule, just picture this. Imagine you're on your ship and you see one of these tabletop icebergs. If the part you see sticking out of the water is about 8 stories high, that means there is a mind-blowing 72 stories of solid ice lurking right below the waves.
While on a dive in a small submersible, Tyson did this simple but totally brilliant optics experiment. He brought a red Santa hat with him. As the sub went deeper and deeper, the water started filtering out the red wavelengths of sunlight. And with no red light left to reflect, the bright red hat just slowly faded to a ghostly black. But then, as they came back up, the color dramatically snapped right back into existence. It was a perfect real-time physics lesson.
And what he saw at the bottom was truly, truly otherworldly. He talked about seeing creatures like starfish with 15 legs just thriving in below-freezing saltwater. It felt, he said, like he was looking at life on another planet, as if he'd cut a hole through the ice on Jupiter's moon, Europa, and was just peeking in.
Okay, so from that alien world deep below the ice, let's come back up to the surface to meet the true rulers of Antarctica, the charming, clumsy, and completely fearless inhabitants. As Tyson puts it, they should probably just rename the whole continent Penguin Land.
It's a classic riddle, right? And the answer is, of course, the penguin. And down in Antarctica, they are everywhere. Tyson jokes that there are bajillions of them, And he says you can definitely smell their colonies long before you can see them.
You ever wonder why penguins have that iconic, clumsy waddle? Well, it's actually a brilliant piece of evolution. For millions and millions of years, they've had zero predators on land. So why would you waste energy being quick and nimble when there's nothing chasing you?
And this total lack of fear means they'll just waddle right up to you completely unbothered. Tyson was fascinated by their social lives, watching them fight over the best spots for their nests, carefully keeping their eggs warm, and even seeing whole lines of them chicken out at the last second before jumping into the freezing water. It's hilarious.
And here's a fascinating little fact. This whole no-land predators thing is literally baked right into the continent's name. The ancient Greeks called the North Arctos, which means bear, because of the polar bears up there. So when they theorized there must be a southern landmass to balance things out, they called it Antarctos, literally the land with no bears, and they were absolutely right. No bears, but a whole lot of penguins.
So, when you're in this desolate, otherworldly landscape, and you're surrounded by astronauts and space nerds, the conversation is naturally going to turn to the parallels between exploring Earth's toughest frontier and humanity's big push out into the cosmos.
Aboard the ship, Tyson, astronaut Scott Kelly, and even Captain Kirk himself, William Shatner, got into these big conversations about the two great frontiers. I mean, both Antarctica and outer space are incredibly hostile to human life. Both of them demand huge amounts of bravery to explore. And both of them reveal something really fundamental about our species' need to just push into the unknown. And pretty fittingly, on Christmas Eve, Tyson sat down with Apollo moonwalker Charlie Duke to talk about one of the most emotional moments in all of human exploration. It was on Christmas Eve, back in 1968, that the crew of Apollo 8 became the first human beings to ever orbit the moon, and they witnessed that now iconic image of Earthrise.
As they orbited, with every person who ever lived contained in that tiny blue marble hanging in the blackness, the astronauts took turns reading from the book of Genesis. It was just this moment of profound awe, a powerful reminder that sometimes you have to go to the farthest frontiers just to really see home for the very first time. And really, that's the ultimate takeaway from a journey like this. Whether it's braving the Drake Passage, diving into the alien oceans of Antarctica, or launching ourselves into the vacuum of space, we are a species that is fundamentally driven by curiosity. And it leaves you with this one last big question. What is that spark inside of us that will always push us to leave the safety of the shore and just venture out into that great, beautiful unknown?